Thank you. So if I can get Heather Poulin, Juliana Pavoto, Christine Hagopian, and Elisa Esposito to turn on their mics and their cameras. Hi, Heather. Hello, everybody. Who are we missing? Nope, we got everybody. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is our 10th annual leadership panel that we're calling Creating a Pipeline for Women in Print. Heather, let's start with you since I'm sitting in the RICO customer experience and executive meeting. Was I right, Liza? Was I close? I'm sitting with Liza here. So in beautiful Boulder, Colorado, where I just took a little bio break in your gender neutral bathroom. So thank you so much. When we talk about being big and bold, these are things that make people who come here understand the type of culture that you are crafting. So I just want to thank you for that experience I just had. Can you tell everybody a little bit about you and the work that you do at RICO?
Sure. So thank you for having me on the panel, Deb, and you and I have worked together for quite a while now. My current position is Vice President of Marketing Strategy and Campaigns here at RICO. So I actually have that wonderful production team that you're with today, Deb, as part of my group. I'm very proud of them all. So I'm sure they're taking very good care of you.
Amazing.
My team's responsible for creating all of the go-to-market strategy. I've been in the print business for a very long time. My father was in the business, and it was my first job was actually with Savin the same year that RICO acquired them. And then throughout my career, I've been in and out of the print industry and recently came back to RICO in 2017. I have to say that I think that my favorite jobs all pertain to print. So if it wasn't working for a print manufacturer, it was working for a publishing company, or it was working for an ad agency where print was always a component. So print is near and dear to my heart, and I'm happy to be a part of this panel today. Thanks, Deb.
Thank you so much, Heather. Juliana, hola, ¿cómo está usted?
Bien.
You are the newest member of all of us around here. So can you tell everybody a little bit about the work you do as the Community Success Manager for the Americas at D-Scoop?
Sure. Thank you, Deborah. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And before I start, I just wanted to congratulate the winners. Good job. I'm Juliana Pivoto. Like Deborah said, I recently joined the D-Scoop team as a Community Success Manager Americas. For those who don't know, D-Scoop is a global community of more than 15,000 members within the graphic industry. My role is to connect and engage with our members in the Americas region, including Latin America, and find ways to help them to benefit from our community. I'm new to the printing industry. My background is in advertising. It seems like I have something in common with Deborah. In my previous job, I worked on the community team with a tech company. I'm still in learning mode, and I couldn't feel more fortunate to attend this conference, be part of this panel, and hear from these brilliant women and the guys that I've just heard them. So, yep, thank you.
And I want to thank you for being big and bold and accepting my invitation, which some people, actually everybody I ask says yes, or I force them to be on it. But we had a conversation because, you are new and you weren't sure that this was the time for you to be on this panel, but we had a conversation, and just based upon what you said right now, I knew that I was right. And I'm so happy that you just showed everybody how right I am. Matthew Parker's here. That's what I'm going to take credit for. Christina Gopian, staying with the organizations and boots on the ground. You are here representing the printing industries of New England, which is also referred to as Pine, but also a larger entity. So can you please tell everybody a little bit about you, your work at Pine, and the bigger picture?
Yes, thank you for having me today. I appreciate being on the panel with the others, and congratulations again to Emily and Sandy. It's wonderful to see that happening. So yes, I too come from the advertising world, started out at a small firm many moons ago, will not put dates out there. Moved to publishing magazines, worked on 2 publications for many years, then moved into the paper world and printing, and then, you know, became the education director here at the Printing Industries in New England. And for the last 6 years have been the president of the association. Again, first female president in 130 something years. That never gets old for me to say that, because it just sort of quantifies. It's not for me to pat myself on the back.
Yes, it is. You be big and bold, Christine Hagopian.
Yes,
You are
ma'am.
the
I am
first
big and bold,
woman
so-
president of that organization. You say that with pride.
Yes, you're right. I should. And I'm not afraid to be big or bold. And you know that. So Pine is part of the former affiliate program of the Printing Industries of America, which is no longer. But we are an association network. So America's Print Association Network, or APAN. We are very strong across the country, over 5,000 print members as members across our associations cumulatively. I serve with other wonderful gentlemen and female managers, and we are proud to work with boots on the ground, like Deborah said, helping the association membership and non-members, trying to make sure that our industry stays strong, remains compliant, is looking outside the box for their future workforce, and of course, providing resources for them to run efficient and continue to grow.
Well, I am thrilled that all these regionals have band together under one umbrella, although they're
Yes.
acting still as individual organizations, because to your point, California has California problems and New York has New York problems, or New England has New England
Right.
problems. And there are certainly overarching topics, workforce development, supply chain issues, but boots on the ground still needs local service. And I would implore everybody out there to find your local affiliate or the closest one to you, and definitely get involved. And I didn't actually post that link in the chat, Christine. So if you can put I'm not sure if that website is up yet, but if it is, can you share that?
I will do so during the program. Yep.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Okay, so the topic of this this particular panel today is creating a pipeline for women in the industry. And you know, there is an expression out there, the boys club, right? And when we think of the boys club, we think of you know, it's really access, right? It's access. It's having doors opened up. It's pulling your friends in, you know, it's being asked, who do you know that can help? And there's a community around that. And that is fine. When we think of girls club, though, we usually think of, maybe it's a book club, or maybe they're you know, talking about, actually, I can't think of anything else but a book club, which is pretty sad. But I do not think ever that if I'm a member of a girls club, that I'm going to have access to opportunities that other people aren't going to have access to, that somebody's going to be there to pull me in or to help me succeed in a way. And that's what I want to change through this conversation. You know, we need a girls club. Yes, Christine.
I hate to be the one that does this, Deborah, but I think you missed introducing one individual.
Oh, I did. Elisa, I'm so sorry. My apologies.
I thought before we got into it,
You're amazing, because I'm looking at her at a mini screen. My God, my apologies. I am so sorry.
Save the best for last.
Thank you, but I put
suck.
makeup on for you today. So
I am absolutely humiliated and ashamed, and my apologies.
It's
all I
all
can say is
good.
that you guys are on tiny little screens, and my apologies. Okay. Elisa Esposito is the Director of Marketing, Promotions, and Channel Marketing at Konica Minolta Business Solutions, also a sponsor of Girls Who Print, so not a good person to forget. And Christine, again, thank you. That's why we have you, boots on the ground. Elisa, can you please tell everybody, is Elisa or Eliza? Elisa.
you had it right. It's
Okay.
Elisa.
I just
Yes,
now
it's
I
Elisa.
have to make sure of everything.
Yeah, in the form of many different ways, so no worries.
Can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and
Sure.
also what you do at Konica Minolta? Christine, I owe you a drink on for that one.
Well, you owe me one.
Oh, that's true. See, here I am forgetting you again. Go ahead.
It's all good. No, no worries. I love to kid. So I'm Elisa Esposito. I'm Director of Marketing Programs and Channel Marketing at Konica Minolta. I've got, I don't even want to tell you how many years of experience in the print industry. I started out with graphic design, as I hear someone else has as well. Even have a degree in web development. Worked for a lot of agencies, tons of print shops, until I went into the office equipment industry, where I've been there now over 23 years. So 2 at Konica, at Rico prior. And so right now I'm in charge of, and my history has always been, I started with promotions and communications, went to product marketing, field marketing, channel marketing, supported dealer direct, IT channel, resellers, disty, just tried to get as much under my belt as possible. A lot of new ways of thinking for us. And now I'm at Konica, where I'm, pushing out promotions, programs, incentives. We do sales enablement, campaigns, just not much we don't handle here. So it's been awesome. And I appreciate my entire journey and everyone I've met throughout this entire journey. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. So as I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted by Christine Hagopian, was that, when it comes to a girls club, let's take big and bold ownership of that, and let's really create something that's meaningful. And so for me, big and bold, it all starts with visibility. And it's interesting because recently a few women told me that in big and bold terms that they don't need to see a woman as a business owner or an upper management or keynoting an industry event to see someone of the same ethnicity as them in any of those roles, to think they can achieve those things, which really set me back on my heels, metaphorically, because it's not the way I think of things. I embrace their position, but I'm not sure that things can actually change on a grand scale, unless especially in the printing industry, unless we see more women and we see more people of color in leadership roles in the C-suite, on the covers of trade magazines. That's the one that makes me the most upset. And certainly on center stages at events, not relegated to conference rooms, not relegated to a 7:30 in the morning women in print breakfast, right? It's not even meaningful enough to happen during event hours. It has to be something separate. It's not visible, So how do we get there is really the question. And let's start with visibility. Does it matter? Now, Elisa, since I so rudely forgot to introduce you before, I'd like to start with you, please.
Okay. So can you go back to the question though?
Yes.
Which one was it?
Visibility, does it matter?
Absolutely matters. Pardon me. And to your point, what you said, it's not just about being in a conference room and being, having a seat at the table matters quite a bit, because having a seat at the table will help us move other women to be able to be as a part of other, meetings, and being, again, part of the channel strategy, right? I just don't feel that in the 20 some odd years that I've been in this industry and working for a Japanese company, it's always been very difficult for women. And Heather probably knows this when you said you were with Savin, right? So when Rico purchased Savin, we had our first HR director a female. It was a male before. And we also had our first VP woman that was managing the IT channel. And that was a big deal. And without them in charge, it wasn't easy for the rest of us to move up. It was really difficult. So it's like you have to kind of be a bullnose, go through, and then pull people in with you, help move these women ahead, because otherwise, unfortunately, we're still in a very male-dominated industry.
Thank you so much. Juliana?
Does visibility matter? Yes, capital letters. We do want to be noticed, but more than that, we want to, I believe that we want to be respected. We want to make a difference. We want to influence people and make an impact. And I would also say that we want to feel empowered. That I hope that the things change, and it's not, we see more women and not so many, like this male environment changes in the future.
At the last D Scoop Edge Rockies, you actually produced it was International Women's Day, and we had an event there, and I was walking down the hallway, and I heard two gentlemen. They saw the poster, and they were like, "Why did there have to be a woman in print thing? Like, they're just doing it to tick off a box that they're doing it." And I'm coming up against that a lot more as well, that woman's only on the stage because they're a woman. There only is a woman in print event because D Scoop wants to show everybody that. But I believe you guys really feel that, which is why I invited you. So can you just comment? I know you weren't there for that event. You came along after, but just the idea of what I'm speaking about.
Yeah, so I love the fact that this Scoop loves to feature women in our industry. And we are going to continue to do sessions, to have sessions like that and do better. We have a big event coming up in May 2023, and there is a plan. We want to do better and not just do things because we have to. It's just because we value, we appreciate it. So this is, I would say that that's the Scoop's culture. Just let's highlight what women in the industry have been doing.
Thank you so much. Heather, does visibility matter?
So I think visibility matters, but I think it goes beyond just visibility. I think that, and I think Elisa mentioned it before, right? Like a seat at the table. You can't wait for them to give you a seat at the table. You have to bring your chair and put it at the table and sit down and not be afraid to have a conversation and be confident in your ability and yourself, because you're there for a reason. So it doesn't matter. I mean, I can't tell you, Deb, how many times I've walked into rooms where it's gotten more diverse now, but it used to be like all men. That's okay. I still sat down and gave my thoughts, and we collaborated, and it was great. So I think not waiting for that seat is one key. I think the other one is you need mentors that encourage you and that empower you, especially when you're first starting out in your career and still kind of trying to find your voice. And that person can be anyone. I mean, it can be a man, a woman, it can be your family, it can be people at work. I've had some great mentors that are men, and I've had some great mentors that are women. And conversely, I've had not great mentors, not great bosses, both men and women. So I think that that's another key. Like, you need to find a good mentor and not be afraid to ask them to help you or ask them for advice or reach out and ask. I think that you need to make yourself a little bit vulnerable and kind of lean into the discomfort to be able to get the help that you need to feel empowered and not wait to be asked to sit down and actually be at that table.
What you just said is so big and bold, and it really does for many women out there take an inner strength that they don't realize they have to sit at that table and to speak up. How did you develop that, or were you just like, nope, I'm sitting here and this is my spot?
So I would say that it did take me a while to find my voice. But I was never afraid to sit at the table. And that's partly because, I'll just be honest, partly it's because of my dad. Like, because he always told me it doesn't matter. You're smart. Go sit at the table. Like, what are you waiting for them to ask you for? Just go. So that was kind of what started me off. And then along the way, I've had a lot of really good mentors that have helped me find that seat at the table. And, you know, sometimes you take a seat at the table and you get beat up, and that just is what it is. And you kind of take that and think about it and just apply it to how to not make that happen next time, or how to be more prepared. And I think that, I had somebody ask me one time, like, earlier on in my career, hey, when you talk in meetings, like, everybody kind of listens, and how do you do that? And I said, well, I don't talk just to talk. I speak up in the meeting when I have something to contribute and I have something to say. Otherwise, I'm listening to what other people say, so that when I do talk, people understand that I have something to contribute. I'm not just talking for the sake of, like, oh, I like to hear my voice. I think I'm just going to, talk about anything.
Right. Well, thank you so much. The chat is loving your comments and your advice. So thank you so much. Christine, does visibility matter?
Absolutely. Going back to what I mentioned earlier, being the first female as an association executive, and I'm not the first in my peers, but first here in New England, a very staunch area of the country. And when I first started working at this association as a director, I sat at a board meeting and was told not to speak unless spoken to. And that wasn't female or male, it was just everyone as staff. And you learn from the room, and you learn how to read the room. And like Heather mentioned, come to the table prepared, overcome your fear, use the fear to drive you, right? Because that energizes you, and it can prove very healthy to have that fear. It's okay if you fail. You learn from that mistake. If you make a mistake, you learn from it and grow from it. We all do. But having the opportunity to sit at the table, to sit at the head of the table, and then encouraged more females and more diversity to that table. We work on that right here now. This is the time of year where I'm looking for volunteers at our board of directors. And I don't look at race or gender. I'm looking for those who are going to come to the table and contribute. So, we have to learn from our experiences. But again, what someone previously said, have that strength from within, have your, information, what you're about to speak with or about, and be ready to go forward and move the conversation.
Yeah.
But I think being seen is very important, no matter what it is here
Right.
that we're seeing, right?
And supported. I think that's the second aspect of this, that, you will end up with more volunteers or candidates to be on your board that are women or diverse or in some manner, because they would feel supported by you, and not just, well, we've got 4 guys, we've got 2 seats left, so we don't want, social media on us. So let's just, what's Joan doing today? Bring her in here for the picture, and I've actually had crazy conversations with people, and I try to tell them that it's amazing that you want to do this, that you're in on doing this, but the first thing you have to do is create a support system for people who have not been previously supported. Otherwise, they would already be sitting at that table. So I'll just stay with you, Christine, if you don't mind, because you and Juliana are both here representing industry organizations, and which means that you do have a role creating visibility. You decide who presents, who does webinars, and who presents at your events and things like that. So how are you going that extra way to create a pipeline for women or making them feel supported? And how does that manifest in your organization?
We're always looking for always looking for diversity in our conferences or education. If they meet the criteria of what the content is about, that's important, number one, but always looking for people to step up to the plate. Next week we have a conference, and it's probably even, maybe 3 to 2, male to female, but and participation, we have more females participating than ever. I think it's important. We have to broaden our field and our range. Our association offers scholarships. And on average, we receive about 40 applicants every year for our scholarships. And this is high school and college age students. And we have had more female participation than I've ever seen. And I personally communicate with them, whether they receive the scholarship or not. I make sure that I connect with them. I try to follow them through their career, encourage them to participate again, try to be a mentor in a, not in a created role, but off to the side, and guide them through LinkedIn and try to make connections for them. We will have more females in our industry if we continue to nurture these students. And working with the vocational schools, I pride myself in the connections with the ones here in New England, and hope to be a resource for them, and also, shine that example of what's out there. So
Yeah.
it's very important.
And that is literally the definition of creating a pipeline. So you're doing it. Juliana, or is it Juliana? Am I, did I Americanize your name, Juliana?
No, it can be Juliana, Juliana.
Okay, I'll stick with the American version if you don't mind.
And I feel like Elisa, maybe Elisa understands me, right?
Yes.
That can be, you have your name, might be say so many ways. At this group, we have the opportunity to celebrate and amplify the decisions and successes of our members. Digital printers around the world follow our content, our education sessions, our activities and events all year round. And it's important to showcase the inspiring and successful women in the industry, and how we do that through board representations across all global regions, on stage at our events. Hopefully it's not going to be at 7:30 in the morning, Deborah, with a breakfast, discussion panels, online content, partnerships, sharing stories, interviewing them. I would say that diversity, equity, and inclusion are part of the group culture. I dare to say that I'm an example. I'm a woman, I'm a foreigner. English is not my mother tongue. I have an accent. I'm coming from a different industry, but I'm still an asset, and I feel supported. And I wish that more people could have this kind of opportunity. And I also wanted to say that we want to continue to recognize women at print industries worldwide. So feel free to reach out to me, to reach out to us, this group, if you have any suggestions or ideas about ways that this group can further the visibility of women in print.
Thank you so much for that. So now I'm going to focus on Elisa and Heather. Both of you come from corporations, global corporations. So it's a little different than industry organizations. There are many layers to navigate. You both have upper management roles at Japanese companies, which we've mentioned that historically have not always been open to women in upper management positions. So my question in big and bold terms is, do you both have a responsibility to be visible and to be vocal for making it better for the next woman who joins your company or who joins the industry? And if it is in your experience, how did you navigate any of these historic obstacles at Japanese companies that might have come your way? Heather, we'll start with you, please.
Okay, thanks, Deb. So I'm lucky because at Ricoh, they're not the traditional Japanese company. And I do know what you're talking about, Deborah, from just starting out in this industry.
Can you elaborate on it just a little, because I haven't had the experience. So if you could just like set the landscape.
Yeah, sure. So years and years ago, so I don't think that's the current state, and I know Elisa will talk a little bit too, but years and years ago, there were not a lot of women in the print industry. And when you worked for a Japanese company, there were not a lot of women there. If you were a woman there, you weren't necessarily ever told not to speak up, but it was kind of assumed you wouldn't, especially if you were on a global type call, that you wouldn't really speak. That's changed radically. I would like to think across the board, but I'm just going to talk specifically about at Rico. We have it's a very modern company. We have a new CEO over the past couple of years. He's building up, a customer of excellence. And even from the highest levels at Rico, they really want diversity. They want to encourage diversity across all levels. They're extremely supportive. They have the, don't be afraid to fail attitude, no matter who you are, because you're trying new things and they're not all going to be successful. But I think that's radically changed over the years now, where you are seeing more women come in. We had our brand new CMO start about a year and a half ago, and she is a huge advocate and voice for recognizing and moving women up in the industry. I would say that we talked a little bit, Deb, that, at first when you start out, you're kind of finding your voice. I think no matter who you are, but I think especially if you're a woman. And now in the role that I'm at, I feel a responsibility to use my voice, but not only to move women up in the industry, but to help develop everyone in the industry. So obviously I'm supportive to various people within the company, but I look at my group and I really hone in on how can I help them? How can I help them get where they want to be, no matter what race, what ethnicity, what gender they are. And I think Rico also enhances this or encourages this way of thinking, like, to look beyond those things. So you've got this person, they're really good at what they do. This is where they want to go. How do you help them get there? I am sensitive to the fact when I do see women, especially younger women who are just starting out, and I can tell that they're trying to find their voice. And so I do encourage them. I try to bring them up and bring them along. And I encourage the leaders on my team to do the same. I encourage them, like when they're in a meeting and there's a younger, whether it's a woman or a man, there's a younger person in that meeting and you feel like they have something to contribute, but they're not speaking up, to give a little silence or to encourage them to contribute and kind of help them, like Christine was saying, use their fear and try it and realize it's not so fearful. It's not so terrible. So I think at this leadership level, there's a responsibility to help bring everyone along. But I think there's a special sensitivity in finding those women who may still not be comfortable bringing their own seat to the table or not be comfortable in speaking up, to help them along and to encourage the leaders on your team to help them along as well.
Thank you so much. Chat's going crazy. I love everything you say. Elisa, do you have a responsibility to be visible and making it better for the next woman coming into your company or coming into the industry?
Oh, absolutely. I think anyone that's in any position has that responsibility. I don't think it even matters whether you're in, the ELT or not, right? It's something that I think we just need to do across the board. If there's one thing that I will say, that when and I agree with Heather. I mean, when you start in a Japanese culture, especially, and a lot of European companies are like this, very different from American. The culture is very different. Women are frowned upon. But if there is one piece of advice that I could give anyone, which is the one piece of advice that I got from a manager early on at Rico, and he had said to me, "You are not like the others. You came from small background. You really understand how to get things done. I don't want the corporation to change you. Be who you are, stay who you are, true to what you do, and you will be very successful because you're not allowing someone to change you." And I felt that from the very beginning, that if I didn't feel that it didn't really fit the culture, what was the reason that it didn't? Again, whether it's small business, large business, you have to really feel what that is, and then be able to express why you have a difference and not be obnoxious about it, and not to be afraid of, I don't need to be that person at the top with all the answers. The other thing that I've noticed is that if we don't work together as a team, and I don't care if you're the janitor, it's you're going together and you're giving your advice. I think people look at you that it's not about me, and even though I am a woman, but I think it also helps that others can see that we could be strong across the board, right? And my team's going to be strong because I'm allowing them to be them and not changing to try to fit the mold. It's be who you are. You're here for a reason. You were hired for a reason. You're smart. So be that way. And, you know, and I've worked for a Japanese manager for 8 years. And I have to say, he was tough. He was so tough on me, but he was so tough on me because he felt as a woman, he knew I could do better. Like I would be able to advance, but how do I get there? So he would treat me as if I was anyone else. And I never stopped. I never stopped and said, okay, I'm going to back down. I'm going to keep pushing forward and learn. But, you know, like here at Konica, I will say, you know, Kay Fernandez, she started our whole Step Forward program. And that was to bring inclusion and diversity into the work environment. And she has done that an amazing job with that. And then took it to another level for Step Together, which was focusing only on our dealer channel and the women leaders in the dealer channel. And that is another area where they're by themselves. If you think about, sometimes you have women that are in smaller environments, and who do they go to? And so it was just pulling everybody together and having the conversation and being open and not afraid to talk about, you know, the issues that we're having and how we can help each other. And I'm very amazed to see how it doesn't matter who they work for. We're all in the same boat. And we should really just continue on as, you know, being very supportive.
Thank you so much. Kelly, it seems that Zoom is only letting 100 people in at a time. I'm going to get on that. If you can, oh, I guess Jenny can hear me. Jenny, I'm going to get on that in a minute. So I'm just prefacing that because I'm going to ask the next person to speak, but then I'm going to kind of see if I can deal with the Zoom issue. So I didn't want anyone to think I was being rude. We had a session this morning on company culture and creating company culture that's welcoming, that focuses on happy employees or productive employees. What aspects of culture would be important for women to ask about during a job interview or joining an industry organization? Christine, let's start with you. And then if I don't come back on camera because I'm handling the Zoom, let's go to Juliana, Heather, and then back to Elisa. So please take it.
So wait, before you go,
Yes.
in reference to making people feel welcome and inviting, in a sense, to an association or an organization and belonging.
Yeah. What type of company culture would be attractive to you know, that you're creating to foster everything that you mentioned before in the fact that more people are coming to you? There must be something, you know, that's going on there.
Right. So yeah, as an association, it's interesting. You know, some people don't want to be part of an organization necessarily. They want to have resources. So something I pride myself on is making sure that everyone that works here, for example, feels that they are on an even playing field as far as a work-life balance. I don't think it's fair for a female to have anything more than a male that is working here. I think we have to be careful when we work in that realm as well. As a mother, as a single mother, you know, I always wanted to make sure that I could get what I needed to do accomplished. But I always, when I was sitting in a staff meeting or with my peers or subordinates, it didn't matter to me. I wanted to make sure we were all open to what the schedule was. We all needed to have free time for handling a car issue or a home appliance issue or what have you. I think having that mindset for everyone is important. I don't think we should try to single out. I really think work life also includes being here and having some downtime. I know that it's important that we're on social media to promote our companies and organizations and do things like this. And sometimes in the past, I think people frowned upon the use of time for these types of events. But this is a very important conversation that needs to be had and to continue and to help people grow. I think we need to use these types of mindsets to keep things moving forward. As I go to member plants, member companies, things they're working on internally is making sure that people all are looked upon as equal. They're bringing their differences or their nationalities to the table and embracing them and sharing cultures. I think that's an important thing that we should all be working on as well. The diversity is interesting. I don't think it makes us different. I think we're a melting pot of a country, correct? And I like to celebrate that.
You know, another thing along those lines too, when you talk about culture, Deborah and I have talked about this, you know, the idea of parental leave and the responsibilities of being a parent. You know, I know that there are statistics that show that when it comes to a sick child or things like that, that falls disproportionately on the place of the women. And so one thing that I try to talk about with everybody is that we need to make sure that men are given the opportunity to fulfill that role at home too, right? Like you should be able to take a day off to stay home with your sick child as a
Right.
man, right? And so that when we really talk about equity, that's what we're really talking about. So
One other thing to add, Kelly, also
Yeah,
in
yeah.
addition to not only the children, but is also, I'm in that sandwich generation where I'm, you know, the parental needs too as well. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that they may not need hands-on all the time, but they need to be checked in on. We're being drawn in so many different directions as human beings. I think
Well,
we all
that's
need to look at
exactly,
that.
yes, absolutely. And that's what Ryan talked about. I mean, his whole discussion about culture was about humanity, right? Like
Mhm.
this, that we are human beings who also work, right? We are not workers who also human,
Right.
right? We are human beings who work. So Juliana, what are your thoughts about what kinds of culture we should be cultivating in order to provide more, you know, more of an attractive workplace for women and for everyone?
You know, Kelly, I would be interested in knowing if people take care of each other and how the company takes care of its people. If there is a way to track employees' engagement or motivation or expectations, or even it could be anonymously, even maybe even better if people that don't feel like strong enough to speak up. I would like to know if the employees are encouraged to speak up, if the organization is listening to them, if there is if they're going to take action after. Things like that. I think that will help me giving an idea of figuring out what kind of environment, if it would be like a toxic environment or more like flourish. I think that having this kind of information will be priceless. You're on
Yes,
mute, Kevin.
most definitely. I think all of those things are important. And sometimes, as you know, the two gentlemen that talked about culture earlier, it's almost as if the idea of caring if your people are happy, right? So when you think about that palpable feeling when you walk in somewhere and you see the looks on the people's faces, you can tell if they're happy or
Sure.
not, right? And that's a
Right.
really, really important thing, especially as we start to try to attract, you know, new generations and younger people. Elisa, what are your thoughts about that?
So I, like I said, I did many years in small business and then went to a corporation. So, and I will tell you, I had a life-changing, something life-changing happening to my son. And when I was in a small business, and I found it very difficult to continue to keep working because I didn't have the support that was needed. So for me, I feel that, you know, benefits were one thing that I needed to look at. The support to know that in a small business, and it was a print shop, believe it or not, and I was going to purchase it. So I would have been half owner and I had to drop out because there aren't as many people to help as if you go to a corporation. So it was like, never thought about that before until I had something life-changing happening. And now all of a sudden your priorities change. So I could say, hey, look for benefits, look for that support in case you do need to, take days off and you're not going to get fired for it. It was not easy in a small business because, and I don't blame them, because there's just not enough people to support and sustain the business to keep going, because that's my problem, right? But when I went to a corporation, totally different, because they had bigger benefits. They had a little bit more of a support system. Yes, you put up with certain things, but I think you just have to look at, what is it, where are you in your life? What is it that you need? And what's going to work for you? And I have to say, a lot of them now, even small businesses, I've seen the shift where they're just much more open to supporting you, because you don't really think about it unless something happens, and I think, Christine, you mentioned about elder care. I'm there. I've taken care of both parents now. They're in their 90s, and, it's constantly, if the aide doesn't show up, it's on me. And that becomes very difficult. And it's hard to maintain your professionalism at work when the inside of you is like, holy crap, how am I going to do this, that, and the other thing? And you don't want to share everything all the time with, all your personal information, but you wish you just could vent it out and just say, uncle, uncle for a day, uncle for a week. It's hard. So, I mean, like I said, it's just, you be honest, and hey, if they really think you're good, I mean, people are going to stand by you. If not, you move on. There's going to be another place for you that will support you. Because personally, you come first and your family comes first.
Heather, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well.
Thanks, Kelly. So I think that as women, we're sometimes afraid to ask about things that are important to us when we're interviewing for a job. And I don't think anybody should be afraid to ask about what's important to them. So kind of to what Elisa just said, that may shift depending on what's happening in your life at the time that you're interviewing. But I would say you should ask about things that are important to you. So when I interview with companies, I ask about work-life balance. I ask about the culture in the regard of, do they have a open to trying new things and okay to fail type of mentality like Gala was talking about earlier? Or are they really kind of more process oriented and driven? What's the management style? Because that's important to me, because I don't do well if I have someone who micromanages me. That's just me. So these things are important to me when I'm looking for a job. But I would say people shouldn't be afraid to ask. I mean, if you want to know what the company's stance is on, or what their efforts are around, sustainability or diversity or community service or any of those, I think we shouldn't be afraid to ask. And I think sometimes as women, we're afraid because we think like, oh, if I ask about work-life balance, they're going to think I need to take off all of this time for my kids or something like that. And that's not the case. And if the company thinks that, and that's a problem, you probably don't want to work there anyway.
Yep.
So I would just say be big and bold enough to ask about what you really care about when you're interviewing.
Yeah.
Like
Thank you.
Premeditated it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yes. First of all, Kelly, thank you so much for stepping in. The only way I can actually change the meeting settings at this point, since it started, is to stop the meeting and start it, which I am not doing. So my apologies to everybody over the 100 people that Zoom is currently letting in. I just want you to know I was prepared. I bought a license for 500 women for 500 participants. So I don't want anyone to think I didn't do the right thing. I didn't set it up correctly. I must have not allowed all those people in. So my deepest apologies, and thank you for continuing the conversation. Okay, so Elisa, you actually touched upon this before, so I'm going to start with you again, because what I really am interested now in knowing is, what are you or your company actually doing to help create a pipeline for women in the industry to pull them in and support their careers along the way. And as you mentioned, I was invited to join your Step Together group. I've been to two meetings so far. Both of them come with an amazing gift, by the way. Can you just, I know you touched upon it before, but why was it important for you? And Step Together, I think, is just a perfect
Name.
name.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Yeah. So Step Forward was started, right? Kay had
Oh,
started.
I'm sorry. I thought it was Step Together, Step
No,
Forward.
no, Step
Yeah.
Forward is internally.
Oh, okay.
So, yep. So Step Forward is internally, and she's a huge advocate for helping women in organization. Doesn't matter what industry. That was just her thing. And so we just felt it to be comfortable. We had a meeting a year ago in November, and we had a bunch of women that joined us from management level positions from our dealer channel. And we just all kind of congregated. It felt really good. And we were just like, huh, what if we built our own little organization just for them, like our own little group? And then I happened to sit on a CRN panelist in, I believe it was April. And after doing that and being a part of the CRN team as well, it just made more sense. And it was nice because it's secluded, right? You have to be a KM dealer partner. And, you know, again, we always go to the principles, right? We always look at our principles and how do we build pipeline? And I mean pipeline by selling more products and supporting them that way. But we never really went to the level of, and some could be women that are actually the principals, but then there's also a bunch of other women that are weaved into the organizations. And now all of a sudden, I mean, we're over 120. We've only started in July. So, but it's just to pull them together. And the gifts that you're referring to, just so everyone thinks I'm not buying you to be there, is that we do some kind of fun experience. And one was sipping whiskey and learning about whiskey. So you got a package for whiskey. And then we had an inspirational speaker come on. And then the second one was networking. We sat and we went into different groups, and you know, everyone got to share different, you know, what they're dealing with and how do they overcome it, and getting to know each other. And if you think about it, these are competitors. These are competitors working together, and you wouldn't know that when they're together, because women tend to just love to share, love to be in a room and you know, share personal and work experience. And that one came with learning about chocolates. So now we have our in-person event, which will be at the LPGA. And again, we're bringing women, teach them about golf, and again, having more with Raymond James. They'll also, so that it's again, other women that we're pulling together so that they can hear the same, you know, situations, and we do workshops and stuff with them. So has nothing to do about selling. That's the
No.
one thing that we
Yeah.
don't talk about selling at all. Zero.
Yeah.
It's all about us. And so, and it's just really built some really nice relationships beyond the box.
Yeah. It's really been an amazing experience, and we've touched upon this with Heather. We've touched upon this with Juliana and with Christine, and I certainly encourage people to check out D-Scoop and Print Industries of New England and everything they're doing as far as programs and events and events for women and initiatives that have women at focus. But since we only have a few minutes left, I really want to skip to our last question now, which is in essence to me, probably the most important one, which is that in big and bold terms, which is the theme of our Love and Thunder event today, what is your best advice for being seen and being heard to achieve your career goals? Heather, let's start with you.
Okay, thanks, Deb. I'll try to make this short so everybody can chime in. So I think it's fun. I think it's finding your voice, and I think it's being okay with asking for help or leaning into something that's a little uncomfortable or where you're a little bit vulnerable. And I'm sure there are other Brene Brown fans on the call, but I am a huge Brene Brown fan. And one of my favorite TED Talks that she did, she talks about Teddy Roosevelt's speech about being in the arena. And I share that speech with my team, and that's what I use too. So when you might be feeling a little bit kind of tentative, or you're not really sure, like just, go back to that speech, that unless those people are in the arena with you, unless they've got their sleeves rolled up and they're trying, if they're judging you from like way up in the stands, you don't need their opinion, you don't need their feedback. And I would say to just find those people to align with that can help you you feel empowered and push forward, and don't be afraid to use that voice, because like Elisa mentioned before, you're there for a reason, and you're smart and you should be confident, and that I think is the key.
It's amazing. It's great example. What I usually say to people is, are you going to sit there and boo from the bleachers, or you could get on the field and do something about this? And a lot of people prefer to stay in the bleachers and, eat their popcorn and make comments about it and not move forward. So thank you for being a shining example of not doing that, and for all the valuable advice and for your time. You should look in the chat. You have made a lot of new fans, and I think Rico has made some new fans in the process. Thank you so much, Heather, and
Thank
also
you, Deb.
for hosting me, for your team, for having your team host me. And I'm not sure, I only mentioned it in the beginning, but your team is also celebrating Girls Who Print event day with an event here tonight, where the employees are bringing their daughters, and other women are coming, and people from the community of all types are coming to see the amazing stuff that you can do here. And I'm going to be giving some Print Life presentations to help people see that the print's an amazing place to be. So just thank you for everything that you and your company are doing to really be big and bold and help the industry grow. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Deb.
Christine, let's go with you. What is your best advice for being seen and being heard to achieve your career goals?
Have the confidence from within to just believe in yourself. I have this wall that I look at. I have windows in my office, but on my wall are my children. And I have quotes from all types of people. And one that I love is, and I think affirmations are very important, whether you're a religious person, non-religious person, doesn't matter, but you don't have to be perfect in order to be successful. Just surround yourself with positivity. You're here for a reason. You have one life to live. Make it the best life you can make it. So don't let the fear swallow you. Don't let your stress or anxiety or any of that swallow you. I think there was something in the chat about, standing up for yourself. Don't hunch in and shout, don't cuddle in, just be strong. Keep your shoulders back, chin up. You've got this, girl. Just go do it. Whatever it is you're doing, just go do it. That's amazing. The best advice I could give to anybody. Just be yourself and move forward.
Thank you so much for everything. As I mentioned, we put the link to your LinkedIn, but if you want to add anything else about any events you have coming up and about the other organization, just thank you so much for, honestly, we banded together when the pandemic kicked. I was always with the affiliate. So let's just make that perfectly clear. Boots on the ground is where I live. The people who actually help the people with their actual problems, and not, there were plenty of entities covering those other national things, let's say.
We always appreciate you and the 5,000 plus members that, we support and represent, appreciate what you have done. And politics aside, there's enough print to go around for everyone. So yeah, well, thank you for all that you do for us.
Well, thank you so much. I just am, really want to just emphasize that, no matter what part of the industry you are part of, whatever vertical markets you're serving, the affiliates, the organizations serve everybody. So check them out, join, support. We all need the support. Speaking of organizations, Juliana, let's go to you, señorita or señora. What is your best advice for being seen, being heard to achieve your career goals?
Well, I will call like a piece of advice, Deborah. I don't know if it's the best advice. As I'm seeing things with fresh eyes, I really appreciate what Heather is saying, Christine is saying. Can't wait to hear what Elisa is going to say. But I would say embrace what you do and perform boldly. Doesn't make sure that you make yourself valuable. I think that's what I would say.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining us today and being big and bold in that. And I look forward to working with you at D-Scoop and joining
Likewise.
forces. You have a mentorship program for well, for everybody actually, to pull people in to the industry. And you know that I've had conversations with D-Scoop to find out how Girls Who Print, or me myself personally, can support that in any way. So look forward to working with you. Welcome to the fun, and couldn't be more happier that someone like you deemed the printing industry worthy of your time and your experience. So thank you so
Oh my
much
God.
for that.
Thank you. I thank you.
Okay, Elisa, since I messed up in the beginning and didn't introduce you, you actually get the final word on this.
Final word.
Well, sort
Always
of
have
final
the
word.
final word.
Yes,
That's it. That's my
have the final
experience.
have the final word, but I'm actually
No.
gonna call Kelly Malazzi up after, because to really give her the final word, because I think this is important for her to chime in on too.
Okay.
What is your best
real quick,
advice? Yeah.
my best advice that I could give anyone, and it took me many, many years to get here. So don't think I have all the answers or that it's been easy, is to be you. Don't be afraid to be you. Don't be afraid to even physically be you. Because many times, I will tell you throughout my career, and I've said this already in public, so I could say it here. So I'm okay. I'm not afraid to admit it. I've had health issues that made me plump up, and I've had hair loss, and I've had different things that pushed my confidence down. And I would say that I finally got to a point where I was like, you know what? F it. You don't like it? This is what I am. This is who I am. And I know I do a good job. I may not be the Barbie doll that others may want me to be, but that's just the way it is. This is who I am. So I think everyone really just needs to just be comfortable in your own skin. You're smart, you're very wise, and you could do it. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. So,
Well, thank you everybody so much for your support and for joining us in this panel. And like I said, we've been sharing links, but please, if you if there's anything open for people to join up or learn more about your companies, stick it in the chat. And if you guys can just turn off your video, and I see Kelly, which is fantastic, because I do want you to chime in on this, Kelly. And if we could also pull up Jules, great. She's already there. Fantastic. So Kelly, your best advice is girl number 2 of Girls Who Print for being big and bold and finding your voice.
The short answer is speak up, because I can tell you that there were way too many times in my life where the ideas and the words were fully formed in my mouth, and I didn't let myself say the thing. And that's a huge regret, because I don't know if I was afraid or I didn't think anybody would listen or what it was, but just more, broad scale, like, don't hold back. Just say what you want to say. There's nothing to be afraid of. And you can't make a mistake. I don't think when you're speaking from being in a room and making observations and saying what you think, like, don't stop yourself from doing that.
And Jules.